right, you're on with Julia.
Julia, the Jewel Bud. It's Steve Jewin from MMA Mania. It's always a pleasure. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you doing?
Excellent. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. That means you're also well prepared for this big fight you've got with big bad Olga Rubin in Thackerville. So, what is your take on Olga as an opponent?
I'm excited. I'm excited to get in there with her. I think she's hungry. She's been climbing the ranks. And, I can't wait to get in there.
She is definitely hungry. I talked to her earlier today, and she's very excited about this fight. And she says that nobody is unbeatable. I think that was directly referencing the fact that you haven't been beaten in a long time.
Yeah, true.
So, I know I've
Nobody's
seen
on...
Oh,
nobody,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was
please.
just saying nobody's unbeatable, and I've been beaten. And so that's one thing that me, those two losses on my career, even though they were a long time ago, they are still in the back of my mind like it happened yesterday. So growing from those, I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to be, on this winning streak is because I learned my lessons. You got to grow and make sure that you can be beat. So, it's one of the reasons why I'm so prepared and I prepare for everybody so well.
It seems like an ideal striking style matchup for you because half of her wins come by knockout, 40% of yours come by knockout. Do you envision the fight going that way?
I've seen it go, I always say, I envision it going I always envision it. I see knockouts, I see submissions. I've seen myself TKOing her on the ground. I've seen everything. That would be amazing. And, I've been working a ton on my striking this camp, so I'm excited to show it and use it, and yeah.
Well, I'll give you a little something Olga said, not giving away too much here, but she said, my ground game is underrated. I can submit people too.
Yeah, I believe that, of course. Same. I've only got one submission on my record, and that's something that, it'd be amazing to come away with a submission victory on the 12th as well.
How do you feel about this card being so heavily stacked up with all the different divisions of women's MMA and Bellator?
I think it's amazing. And I think that it shows that they're committed to the 145-pound division, having 3 fights on the card, signing new fighters like Leslie Smith. I think it's huge, and I'm excited to headline it.
Glad you mentioned Leslie. That's somebody else that I've talked to recently, and she seems to believe that a win over KO Kavanaugh could put her in line to face you or Olga Rubin, even if Rubin was able to win. So, what are your thoughts on Leslie Smith?
Yeah, I think she's definitely, I think just with her history and what she's done in martial arts and MMA, I think she'd be definitely an exciting opponent. And, I'd love to face her.
History is something I've been talking about a lot these last few days in my interviews because you've been making history for a long time. Smith has made history going all the way back to the late 2000s. Even younger fighters like Olga Rubin, she's making history by coming as far as she did in just the last 6 years because she only started training at 23 years old. So how do you feel about so much history being made in not just the women's MMA divisions, but in all of your careers?
I think it's, I think that it's definitely it's motivation for me. I can't speak on their part because I don't know what motivates them, but for me, knowing that there's little girls that can watch female fighters get into the cage and compete against each other, and that we're these amazing athletes that are, these fearless individuals that get in there and do it. I think that's huge. And for my nieces to be able to watch me and know that they could one day do that. I didn't have the chance to see that when I was a kid growing up. So I think that all in all, it's so cool to me that the women fighters have definitely gotten, it just keeps growing. So it's motivation for me that little kids can look up and say like, hey, I want to be like her one day. And that's definitely a driving force for me in my career.
And that is exactly what Olga Rubin said to me about why she got into the sport. She said she watched the Ronda Rousey-Miesha Tate fight from 2012 in Strikeforce, and after that fight was over, she's like, I love these women, I love what they do, this is what I want to do.
Exactly. So, there it is right there. that's what we do, and us getting in there, will we inspire people. So that's at the end of the day, that's one of the main driving forces for me in my career.
Is it even bigger that this one is airing free on Paramount Network and that it's not exclusive to DAZN? People don't have to subscribe to see you?
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't think about those kind of things. I don't either one. I think that it's just, yeah, it's great that it's that accessible and that people are flipping through the channel, and everywhere that I go, they're actually saying, oh, I saw I see you're fighting. Like, I'm getting stopped and that's not really common in Canada. Like, it's not saying that MMA isn't popular, but in BC especially, it's not as big as it is in other places in the world. So they're seeing it on their TV, the build up on the Paramount Network, and I think that's pretty cool that they're excited about it and they're advertising.
Well, speaking of Canada, how is it that you can concentrate on doing these interviews and talking about fights today when it's also Canada Day?
I know, right? I got to balance it with my holiday. I just got out of my parents' pool, came in, doing a few interviews, back to training tonight. Just, yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful day here, and it's a nice holiday weekend.
Absolutely. So you'll probably be celebrating more once you're done with training camp and once the fight's over. Then you can belatedly go out and enjoy it a little more.
Exactly. It's my birthday on Thursday. My birthday is July 4th. And we're not really celebrating until after the fight. So we're just kind of, definitely enjoying the weather, enjoying the weekend, but at the same time, nothing's getting celebrated until after the victory on the 12th.
Well, that's very understandable, but happy birthday a few days early anyway, and happy birthday to America as well. What a great coincidence for that day. So how has training changed since this last fight, this last title defense that you've had? What have you changed up?
You know what? I've been training with the same gym since 2002, and things changed, but I think that last fight was a really important step in my career for me, just in general, for my confidence in myself and my skills, and seeing finally, it felt like it was a really great experience for me. And it was, I guess since then, it's been more about tying my whole game together. I think that was it was a big growing lesson for me. And in the last year, it's just about tying my striking into my wrestling, into my ground game and my grappling, and kind of putting everything together. So I think, I guess it's just been more on the same path that I've been following for so many years of my life, but really coming into this comfort zone in my own skills, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I did have to ask, though, since it had been a whole year since you fought Toledo Nogueira, so I thought there was always that possibility, and it also makes me wonder if that's too long of a layoff between fights for you. You know what? It is, and that's one of the things. So I bought a 16-month contract and 4 fights in 16 months. That's the goal. Obviously, things happen in the sport. Injuries happen, things like that, but this for me has been, it's definitely been a year of growth, but I'm excited about what I bring to the table and the skills that I'm going to use on July 12th. So the last year has been, I've used the time wisely, I should say. I'm sure. And it's coming full circle since you'll be right back at Thackerville. In fact, I believe this is your 4th fight in a row now in Thackerville. Yeah, exactly. It's like my second hometown. Do you get that when you go there now? Do people are like, oh, hey, it's Julia. Hi, Julia. Do they just know you that well now? Yeah, well, especially this time around, a lot of people are like, I'm coming. I was at your last fight. I've got a lot of messages from fans that, are just we're huge fans. And now I'm sure they've seen me on the posters there for, this will be my 5th fight there. So, yep, getting a lot more of a fan base there for sure. That's awesome. Now, what about developing the fan base? You said in Canada that it doesn't always get as recognized, especially in BC. What do you do to raise the awareness there in that province? Well, I really
I think that Bellator needs to come to BC, to be honest, and I'd love to headline a card here in Canada. There's a lot of MMA. MMA's been around for a long time now, and there's lots of local MMA promotions, but I think I think Bellator in BC would do amazing, especially with Rory McDonald being the champ. There's also a kickboxer on the card, Gabriel Vargas, that's fighting. There's quite a few of us, and Lance Gibson Jr. He's my number one coach and training partner. He just signed a deal with Bellator. You know, like we could definitely put on a good card with a lot of BC and sell the place out. So yeah, I think it's got to come to Canada next.
Well, I think that's a little bit of a scoop here. I didn't know Lance had signed, and I haven't talked to him for a long time, not since he was the World Series fighting champion. So I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah, well, he basically, will be his third pro fight. It's Lance Jr., so it's his son.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got confused. Yeah, you're right. I apologize.
That's okay.
So
no worries. They've got the exact same name, so it's easy to confuse it. But yeah, so he'll be fighting in Bellator, and it'll be huge as well for us as a family.
I can't wait to see that. And I agree with you. There's no reason they shouldn't run a show in BC, because I know UFC has run shows in Vancouver, so there's absolutely already the regulation and organization in place to hold an event.
Absolutely. And I think Bellator would do a better job having enough BC, our local fighters on the card, and we do amazing.
That's true. They do definitely promote the fighters from a local area when they do shows. In fact, sometimes I think that's the sole reason they hold shows in Italy, is because they have Alessio Sakara under contract.
Probably.
So they definitely need to run a show there soon. But in the meantime, Julia, I'd like to give you the opportunity, as I always do when we talk, to throw out plugs and sponsors and teammates and social media. Anything that you want to mention, please go ahead.
My family and friends at Gibson MMA, thank you again for another amazing training camp, and Strike Recovery for keeping me in tip-top shape for this fight coming up. And I'll see everybody in Thackerville.
All right, it'll be a great fight on July 12th at the WinStar World Casino and Resort in Thackerville. The main event is the Jewel Julia Budd against Big Bad Olga Rubin, and it's going to be a fun one. So, Julia, have a great fight, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Danny, as well.